Hi friends, thanks for joining me here. I hope you enjoyed my cards made for Paige Taylor Evans, the Silhouette Design Team this week. So I'm going to show you how I went about making my turnaround cards. The cards I made for Paige, I chose 3 different cut files from her collection. There's so many to choose from. The round cut files work best because the center is round, and they're backfilled with beautiful, beautiful Bloom Street. I'm just pointing out that I set the atlas on a bit of a slant, the same as you would see it in a stand. And so this cut file, as shown earlier in the video, is free on my website. You can download it there, and it has notes as to how many of the pattern paper and how many of the cardstocks you'll cut. And if you want to know how I made the holes in the largest section, the donut there's another video here on my channel. And so the demo card that I'm going to make here, I chose Paige's spring cut file because it's round, and I filled it with paper, coming up here, paper 16. So the card base is paper 7, and the lettering in the word spring is paper 16. I like that you could get so many different colors from this paper. It's one of my favorite in the Bloom Street collection. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to show you is how I make the pull around. In the cards I made for Paige, I used the butterflies from the Bloom Street collection. But I'm going to use the bumblebee on this one because I thought the colors really matched nice with the paper. So I used the washi tape from the Bloom Street collection. Glued 4 of the 5 small circles together. You leave the last circle to the end so that you can sandwich your tab that pulls the item around the card. So you can sandwich it in between the top of the last disc and underneath the top of the last disc, if that makes sense. You'll see it here. So I'm just measuring to see whereabouts on the disc I need to put some glue. Depending on which item you're going to send around your card, you'll just mark it with a pencil and tape it down or glue it down. I make a little bit of a boo-boo here. I need a piece of foam tape under that bumblebee. The butterflies I used already had the foam tape right out of the package. So I'll go back and put a piece of foam tape there. But you can see that I've glued it on top of the circles and underneath the circles. And then I put the very last circle underneath so that it's glued in between. And I just glue my washi tape closed. So this is where you'll want to add a little piece of foam tape under the item that you're pulling around the card. It just holds it up above the card base so that it turns around neatly. And so I'm going to pull it off and add my piece of foam tape. Luckily it wasn't dry or anything, it was just down there for a second. So just a little piece of foam tape to pop it up so it goes around your card easier. And I'm going to reinforce it with a little dab of glue, although this foam tape from scrapbook.com, it actually holds super well. So there you see a little space. It's hard to see on the video, but there's a little space. So we're just going to go through each piece, glue the 2 bases together, and I'm using my repositional tape dispenser. Sticks it permanently if you leave it. So alert, alert, things come crashing down here. My stand almost fell over, but carry on scrapping. I'm using my sanding block to just smooth out the edges and get rid of any excess tape. And then we'll move on to our next piece. We're going to put the designer paper on top of this, the outside of the card. And because I have stitching holes and I'm going to be putting on sequins, I'm careful to only put the glue around the inside of this donut, I'll call it. And then I don't have to worry about stitching through any glue and getting my needle all gummed up. And so we'll just smooth that out. And so we have the side of the card, the back of the card, and we're just going to put together the middle of the card. And I use 2 pieces of cardstock together for the center because it's the part that gets the most, say, stress when you're pulling the item around your card, in this case, a bumblebee. And so once you have it on straight, sorry about my head there, then again, I'm going to use my sanding block and then adhere the Bloom Street paper to the top of that, and a little piece of foam tape is placed on the bottom of the centerpiece to pop it up in the middle of the card. So again, I'm using my repositional tape. This one happens to be the Tomboy. I quite like it because you can buy refills. You don't always have to be purchasing a whole new dispenser. And get that put together. And so I'm going to share some stills of how I finished the center circle. I used my glue pen to apply a light amount of glue and centered the cut file on the center circle, and it turns out like this. Then I put a foam square right in the center of that. So I wanted to share just a couple of things about stitching on the sequence. I used just a basic chain stitch. I do have another video here on my YouTube channel. I used the metallic thread that's available for the We Are Memory Keepers sewing machine. I like it because it doesn't tangle very easily and doesn't ravel. So I've gone ahead and made one stitch, just up through the bottom, down through the next hole, and then up again through the next hole. And you take your thread, pass it under your first stitch, and this is where you add a sequence. And I like to line up my sequence on the mat in the color format that I'm going to place it on my material, and then you can just glance at it very easily. So here I'm going down through the same hole I came up. Let's do one more. So up through the next hole, under your previous stitch, pick up a sequence. I'm going to be using a purple one here. Place it on your needle. Dropped it there, whoops. Place it on your needle and go down through the hole you just came through. And I'm going to carry on stitching on my sequence all the way around and come back and show you a few more at the very end. So it took me about an hour to sew the sequence around the donut, and I'm coming up to the very end, and I just wanted to share with you, when I get close to the end, I count how many sequins I have left to add, just so I can calculate how many I have to add and what color I'm going to end with. And it's just so I don't end with 2 of the same color together. Like I might vary the order a bit at the very end, just so that it's not a blue blue or purple purple or yellow yellow, because that kind of throws off the look of the card. But if you vary it by a color that you used maybe a couple sequences before, then nobody even will notice. In this case, it all worked out exact, and it will if you follow my video where I show how to add holes to your cut file. So I've gone up the next hole, added a sequence onto my needle, and go down the same hole that I came through. Go into the next hole, under your previous stitch, pick up your sequence, place it on your needle, and go down the same hole you came through. It goes along really quite quickly. You get into a rhythm. So I am sorry, I've come to realize that my phone didn't capture the assembly of the parts I made during this video, but truly we were almost at the end. There's a stand included in the cut file that you glue to the back, lets you stand the card. Under the center circle where your cut file is, a little foam square is placed under there so you can pop up the center. Foam is placed around the outside ring close to your sequence if you put them on, just so it doesn't impede the movement of your bumblebee or butterfly. So use your foam tape to place the outside ring first, then place your moving part. The disc just tucks under that ring, and then place the center ring. Thank you so much for joining me. Please leave any questions down below in comments. See you again soon. Bye-bye.